All right, you ready to go? So we haven't seen this player before, Takegawa Yasaburo. Ready to go, but we haven't even started yet. Yeah. Um, he played Shusaku a couple games. I guess the book says he was a low-ranking retainer of the shogun, or shogun, I should say. Um, and he was somewhat of a disciple of Jowa. So let's take a look. I think Shusaku probably transcribed this Kifu, which is why things are flipped around here. What's with the Ponyo pick? Shusaku was a Studio Ghibli fan. Did you not know that? So black just takes his corner enclosure. He knows that he's still going to be able to get one of the other two corners. Now white plays here. What do you guys think about this? Any ideas about this particular corner move? Game over. Makes the left side very large. Seems like a mistake. Why do you think that, Jay? Seems to be exposed to approach. Right. That's what I was thinking too. So if we just look locally, a 3-4 stone is directional, right? Whereas a 4-4 is symmetrical. So there's an open door, and the door is on the triangle side, right? Over here, not on the square side. So white's sort of opening the door in the direction that black Shamari wants to go. Why might that be okay, though, in this case? Locally, it seems like that might be a problem, but what about globally? X Dongo, there you go. Yeah, there's a corner left, right? So perhaps Shusaku doesn't care. You know, he says, okay, you can take that, but there's another corner open, so white's not particularly unhappy. Now, if that weren't the case, I would say A is a mistake to leave such an easy move for your opponent. So if we pretend that there wasn't an open corner, this sort of thing would be a better idea, right? Don't let black grow the left so easily. But this is okay because he gets that corner. So white actually got a stone in 3 corners, which seems pretty good to me to be able to get that as white. Shouldn't be press. What do you mean press? Like E16? A little early for that though, right? Because that's touching a weak stone. But okay, so there's different possibilities, right? Actually, like I at least know these possibilities. Um, so it'd be a little early to press because that's also touching a weak stone. You can do that if you want, though. It's just a little strategic. No pincer. Are you saying for white? You've got to give me a way to address you too. I have no idea how to pronounce your screen name. Maybe I'll just call you Mr. O. Are you saying like pincer now? Oral? Okay, maybe something like that. Yeah, you could do that. Black could Tanuki though. Like if you play a tight pincer, tight pincers are good for defense, but not, or good for offense, but not so good for defense, right? So in this case, what do you think? Tight pincer is probably not particularly suited, right? This actually ends up It's kind of funny because Shusaku ends up playing this later. But if like black is easier, or the left side is easier for black than for white, right? So the thing is, if you play a tight pincer, after black does his jump, your stone is as close to black's little wall as it could be. So maybe black can counterattack, right? Um, so it's easier for white to play loose because it's more negation, and it's also just easier to handle this stone, right? We can't jump out anymore really because black doesn't have a next move. That's the difference between tight and loose. But since it's loose, that also means that black's not really in that much trouble. So he could also Tanuki. So a lot of different opening ideas going on there. But open corner can never be too small, right, Oral? So this should be good. And black's going to continue approaching or enclosing unfinished corners, right? I don't know how many of you have read Yilun Yang's book, the fundamental principles of Go. It has just an amazing section at the beginning about opening moves. And there's he ranks the different opening moves. And essentially, open corners are the biggest. After that, it's unfinished corners. So, and Joseki choice comes after that. So, actually doing like A or B usually comes before doing C. C is sort of finished for now. Both sides have one stone there. And so the idea is that enclosing or approaching one of the unfinished corners is normally bigger than Joseki choice, unless you can really choose something that's really beneficial. So black approaches one of the unfinished corners. So J, you're thinking which one should we do? Is B better or A better? Yeah, I wouldn't actually be sure myself which one to pick here because it's the same distance. The top and the right side are the same distance. That's an interesting question. I like R5 better. I see, that's funny. Um, yeah, he actually doesn't though because he's white, right? He's playing white in this case. What are the considerations? For what, Acons? That's true. I think red's on to something, right? Like with a stone at A, our options over here become more interesting probably. I think that's what red's talking about. White actually doesn't play the Kosumi though, and the commentator um, Kubamatsu Katsukiyo, he actually didn't give much commentary, but one of the things he did point out is that this would be like Shusaku style as white, right? But Shusaku's Kosumi and his opening in general was predicated around being, playing black and white not being able to make up the fact that he doesn't have Komi, right? So this is different. So red is saying that with this one, he likes this push or press later would be more helpful than this one. Seems reasonable to me. It seems like there's more interesting things going on the top than on the right. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. So Shusaku actually does play the tight pincer here. I probably would not be inclined to do so. Of course, you can do whatever you want, right? As long as you make it work. Black actually continues though to approach the corners. So he got to approach both. Now, of course, he has ignored this. So what are we going to do as white? Yeah, if you can make T1 work really well, then you can play there. The problem is I don't think you can. You can make it work very well. Pincer, Taisha. Black ignored us. Okay, there we go. C-dub. Good. That's just the basic thing, right? Like, we attacked black. Black didn't do anything. It's time to, do some sort of punishment. So he does. Now, can the A stone, is that stone dead? Certainly not, right? C17, that looks a little thin. Actually, black plays here. Where would we like to play as black if we can? What's the most severe move for black if we can? Right, the wedge. That's the best. Because if we play here, which he does, white answers and white shape is solid, right? So if we can wedge and, for example, get white to play like this is clearly better, right? Because now white has weaknesses. Right. So that's the next thing to talk about, right? So how do you know when you can wedge? That actually has to do with ladders. There's two of them. You can only wedge if white can't play this move, and that depends on two ladders. So number one is this one. And black doesn't have this ladder. It's close, but black doesn't have that. And let's see, what's the other one? The other ladder is this one. This one black usually almost always has, most of the time. But black actually needs both of them, right? Because white can choose. And since black doesn't have both, he has to go with the easy way, less severe way. So white gets to connect strongly. Black's gonna use some forcing moves to live. And then he takes the 3-3 point. So black is actually alive here already. But we got a wall. So what do we want to do with that? Ugly life? It's not super ugly, but it does get a little painful. But you always have to keep things in perspective, right? We started from a 3-on-1 situation, which means, what did we get? We got to play away, right? So, and now we're alive. So that's pretty nice. And 16. Oh wow, you want to go, okay, N16, yeah, that's pretty severe, maybe a little too tight. How about, what do you think they would play? There we go. That's more the style at the time, right? L17, it's low, which is generally their style. And it's more talking about the wall than it is a severe attack, right? So this is where Shusaku plays. And that's leaving a cut at B, right? It's a little far. With respect to the wall, you're saying it's a little far from the wall? Yeah, but if we do K17, then it's actually not a real pincer, right? So sometimes you have to make a compromise. If we play here, it's not a pincer because there's a two-space extension left here, right? So yeah, it's a little wide, but who knows what's going to happen at B too, right? Like if white gets B, then L17 is not necessarily too far, right? Because that's like a 6-line wall at that point. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 5. Sorry. So there is the cut at B, right? So clearly black's probably going to want to do something about that. But he decides that if he's going to cut, he wants to make sure that his A stone is settled first. How do we settle this sort of stone easily and quickly? Right. Can do an attachment to settle quickly. Next move, 5Q or weaker. Good. It's a vital point, right? S18. Um, Depending on the board, yeah. To set up a ko, right? But we want to settle in this case, so not in this case. We're not like in a sabaki situation. Okay, and what about white? What are white's options now locally here? R13, R11, P14. Wow, I'm getting a lot of responses that I did not expect. R12, S12, Q15. Oh man, this is gonna be, we're gonna have to spend some time here. R14. I'm starting to feel trolled now. Yeah, I'm not gonna put that one there. Titan, nice try. Nice try though. D13, that's somewhere else. Just speaking locally, Ruckus. R7. Okay, I'm not gonna put that one either. You guys are missing. Okay, only one of these is good so far, and you're missing the second good one. Okay, thank you. Q13. Thanks, Red. Okay, so let's talk about these. Which are the two good ones? Right. These are the good ones, right? Either we're gonna play high on the fourth line, or we're gonna play low with the two-space extension. So let's do these one by one because maybe we can learn a lot of stuff here. What's the problem with A? Right, that's too close. Actually, before we go further, just so I can click the move, which one between the two triangle points, which one do you think is more appropriate in this case? Q13, R12, Q13, Q13, Q13. Okay, so proponents of Q13, why do you say that that one's better? And R12, why do you say that one's better? More pressure. Actually, R12 gets pressured. Wow, so many comments. Extra move. Okay, it's too hard for me to keep up with these, so I'm just going to tell you why, I guess. Is the right side white's area to grow, reasonably speaking? Yes, Ruckus of course says yes. But there's a Blackstone there at R5, isn't there? There's already a Blackstone. Oh, this is what Dongo said. Sorry, I missed it. Yeah, it's not that easy to develop. Um, so actually this is proper because there's already a Blackstone here. If you play here, it's true. This has more potential to attack black later because the stone's high, But you also have to take into consideration that this black group's pretty easy anyway. And what's going to be the pain point for white here? That black can play pretty much immediately. Right, this. That's not worth it, right? Black is not that weak on top that we should be allowing him to get this, open skirt sort of move. Another way to look at this is, let's go back to here. Let me get rid of R5. This is a little different now, right? Like, now maybe we play here. But if black plays here, you're not going to ignore, right? Now you're gonna, you would pincer, but black, gets this. So that's another way to look at it. That stone is already there. Okay, so this one makes more sense in this case. Right, this one is going to have this problem. This one has a weakness too, right? What's the weakness of this low move? It's not as pronounced. Right, it can be pressed down. So yeah, with B or with C, we'll see that later. Low stones can generally be pressed down, right? And high stones can be approached. Fourth line stones can be approached from underneath. That's just a basic thing, right? So let's go back to here. A, right, that's too close. We don't need, these stones are strong enough. We don't need to play so close to them. So that would be inefficient. So we can get rid of that. Okay, what about B? Too far, right? So A was too close, B is too far. These stones, there's a certain heaviness to them, right? That's 3 stones, which means this is weaker. Now, this is going to be like a really fake shape. Let me see, how can I do this? Or was that here? But now I want to change it. Oh, like this. That'll work, right? So if it's like this, without those extra exchanges, now 3 spaces perhaps makes sense, right? A is just, it's just a light stone. We can handle this. This is an important concept to understand. That's only 1 stone. But once you've got those exchanges in, these are heavy. These are not light. So B would be too far. Your stones are heavy, you need to play solid with them. So B is gone. Tawari means changing the order of the moves. Something that Dosaku invented in order to analyze move efficiency. Yeah, that wasn't exactly Tawari, but similar idea. So what's wrong with E? Yeah, needlessly low, right? Sometimes we need to play on the second line. For example, if there's a stone here, now this becomes more natural, right? Because we're coming under this, we're frustrating the A stone, and we can't really, well, you might be able to do this too as well, actually. But this would make more sense, but we don't want to play low for no reason. So we can get rid of that one. What about G? I think G is an easier mistake to make. Small. It's also inside, right? we're playing inside the corner. Notice how in the Joseki we come out to where the rest of the game's going to be played. Yeah, if you play here, Ruckus is right. You could be pressed all of a sudden. You played inside when you were supposed to play outside. We're reviewing one of your games, Shusaku. Um, and so now black takes the outside move and white's going to feel under pressure, right? So that could be problematic. It's just too early to be taking this. Could also, pincer third line as well. He never got 9p. Okay, so hopefully we're learning stuff. What about F? Yeah, you're probably just helping black, right? Just pushing, making black stronger. So we don't need to do that. For example, if black just answers, we're not really sure that AB is a good exchange. Now, if black does this, that might be a mistake, depending. But we would rather just defend and maybe attack on a vital point later. So F is probably just going to help black. What about C, the last one? Right, it's just not practical, right? It's like A except worse. It's way up. It's not even on the fourth line. It's on the fifth line, acting as if this black group is extremely weak, like about to die sort of weak. But it's not, right? So black is going to be able to use this thinness, and most likely we're going to end up with a stone floating on the fifth line that isn't really making much value, right? So it's not practical. Okay, that was like a big detour, but I feel like that was worthwhile. So thank you for everyone that gave a response. Okay, now I have to actually remember what's going on in this game now. Right, so black settled his A group quickly because he wants to cut. So he decided that instead of cutting directly and possibly having several things going on, he made sure that this group would be strong first, and then he cuts. So that's good. So what do we need to do in a cross-cut situation here? Does anyone actually know Mr. Yang's rules for cross-cut? Yeah, generally extend. That's what most people know. Mr. Yang's rules go a little further. They have some questions. Does anyone know these at all? What are the questions we ask? Jay's somewhat close. So the first question is, can white capture any black cutting stone directly? This is general crosscut rules. Can we capture A or B immediately? If you can, yeah, Ruckus can. If you can, just do it, right? Because the crosscut, the fight is over, right? You'll be connected, and that's good. Normally, you can't do that. So since you can't capture anything directly, the next question is, can white save both cutting stones or groups? It's reasonable to expect we can save both. Yes, okay. So in that case, let's help the weaker one first. So which one's weaker? Clearly the one stone, right? That's about to be captured. So let me ask, what ranks do we have here? Let me ask 6Q or weaker. How do we help the B stone? Good. Oh, Decimo King said it. That's what I wanted to hear. because that's what we don't want to do. Which Atari? Actually, you can Atari in this case though, but it's a little. Normally, you don't want to. You're talking about this Atari, right? Yeah, you actually can Atari here, and we actually saw this shape in one of the very early reviews. I don't know which one it is, but if you go watch them on YouTube, you'll probably see this. And in that review, it was actually mentioned that doing this Atari and then descending and playing this are stylistic choices. So you can actually do either. Normally you don't want to Atari if it hurts the other group too much. But in this case, the 4 stones are plenty strong enough, so we can actually afford to do that Atari. But you really need to be careful about that because sometimes you can't afford to Atari. I'm not sure yet. Now, why Atari first instead of just doing this? That's because it seems like this is probably going to be a good spot for black. So there's certain cases where you can break the rule. This is one of them. Since this is such a good spot for black, you could actually make that Atari first, provided that the triangle stones can handle it, and then descend. And that's a little better than this. But in this case, Shusaku just played simply here. Now, black has to ask the same questions, right? Can we capture any white cutting group directly? No, we can't. Can we save both of our groups? Yeah, probably can. So help the weaker one first. So how do we help D12? Let's do, okay, J says E13. Right, that's where white would play to ladder, right? And this is really interesting. Oh yeah, thanks for pointing that out. If we do this sort of thing, there's potential to get Hanade at the head of 2 stones here. And even if we don't, we're just pushing from behind. So not a good idea. Better to just extend. Now, yeah, C-dub is onto something here. So I didn't really expect this, but the commentator said that he said most people would think that this is the only move here, and I definitely fall into that category. That's what I would think. He said black can actually play here if he wants. And of course, white's going to do this ladder, but right, Shusaku, Fordon Shusaku here, knows that there's a ladder breaker here, right? So, and if it goes like this, black will be plenty happy. And this is probably questionable for white, right? So, commentator mentioned that that was possible. The reason he mentioned it was possible is that white's next move is pretty painful for black, right? Well, they actually played Taisha like all the time. I think if you go, it's probably not literally true, but in the last 5 or 6 games, most of them had Taisha. They played it really a lot. It's actually modern day pros tend to avoid complicated situations like Taisha or large avalanche or like magic sword, just complicated variations in general because time allotted for tournaments is just so short. The games are shorter, so and they know that their opponents are preparing, studying these things in advance, and they don't want to walk into a situation that their opponent has prepared for and they haven't when they don't have a lot of time. So usually they'll take the easy variation if they can. Yeah, that Lee Sedol's ladder thing was in a blitz game, actually. Okay, so this is a little painful for black, because now this is something that weaker players tend not to appreciate, but this Hane and connect makes white's wall so much stronger. It's really a big deal. This wall is much stronger now, and black's group is also getting weak. Black has to live. And this is a little painful. So now where for white? E11. Oh man, I love you, Jay. Now let's go back a little bit. This is your E11 move. It's the same thing. So, you know, Croas, who is a fantastic teacher here on KGS, I'm going to borrow an analogy he uses. What he would say there is that it's the same, like the same DNA. Those moves have the same DNA. You're wanting to play A and this B. So can you adjust B just a little bit? Just a little bit. Oh, you want a cap? Ooh, I don't like that. There we go. D10. Anyone can answer. Yeah. This is fifth line, right? So we're still going to have to deal with like these vital points over here. So there's no sense in doing that. This is more reasonable, right? We're on the fourth line because we're more interested in attacking than actually making a position on the left side. For example, if we play low, maybe we can get pressed, right? The low move is not for attacking. The fourth line is for attacking, but we can still make a position on the left later if we want. So this is more reasonable. So where was the cap? And I'm gonna let's see, G13. What's wrong with this? This is about as basic as we can get, but it's easy to lose sight of it. Right. I think you're all pretty much saying the same thing in different ways. The fight is principally between A and B, right? A and B, you know, A is the weak side for white. So we need to attack from our weaker side so that it doesn't get too weak, right? We always help our weaker side first, not our stronger side. This would just be asking black to get the first move against the weaker stones, and the attack is essentially over now in one move, pretty much, in my opinion. All the pressure is going to be off of black. So that would be classic case of wrong direction. We got to help from the weaker side. Now, Kubomatsu pointed out a bunch of variations in this corner shape to explain why it's so painful that white got this A move. So we'll look at that in a second after we figure out black's next move. This is probably where I can learn the most from this game. If it were me, I would play something really sad on these two stones directly, like believe it or not, maybe like a jump to A or B. I tend to have difficulty handling stones in the center, right? It's harder to find the correct move. Does anyone have any better ideas? They could be, right? It's questionable, Dragon. And in any case, they're not that easy to attack, right? But we would like to use them. Nice, C-dub. And Dongo, yeah. That's where black plays. So, you know, we're flattening white's area, and it's likely to work with these two stones, right? Whereas my sort of move, it doesn't do anything. It's only running. B4. Okay. Um, so black does this, which I think is pretty nice. I can learn from something like this. Okay, so what's the vital point in black's corner? A14? I think J meant A15, yeah. I'm gonna give you credit for that. Yeah, the vital point is there, right? This is the way to see this shape. So black would have to answer like this, right? And then white has this move. Now what does black do? It's not it's not dead, or they would never get into this, but there is problems. A16, throwing in already. A18. Okay, let's look at A18. That seems reasonable. In this case, white will play here. And where for black? A16 or B14. Yeah, that's the two things we should look at. With B14, unfortunately, Shmiao, if white connects here, black's just dead now. A, B, me, I, right? So this is the whole group is dead now. So that's important to look at. Black can't do that. Indeed, black would have to do this one. But that means giving up these two stones, right? So black's alive, but he has to give up those two stones. If that Aji exists, that means that white's group on the left here is not as weak as it might appear if he can capture two stones. I think B19 after A17. Oh, B19? But what if after A17 instead of A18? Yeah, so let's go back. Instead of A18, there's two other moves I think we should look at. One is here. What will white play now? Same thing, actually. And now this is a close sort of thing, right? But eventually black is probably going to have to back off if he wants to be sure of life. And this is just going to be the same sort of thing, giving up two stones. So that's similar. And finally, black has this move. This might look pretty ugly, right? But this one actually works in a sense too. White can play here. We would have to extend. And what's the problem now? Black can live, but now we get these two stones instead of, the other two. So that's the Aji. It seems like if white plays A15, black's going to be giving something up. Okay, I'm waiting. Why can't black play B19? Oh, you want to play it immediately? Like this, right? We have to figure out together now. I haven't looked at this. A12. B17. Yep, that works. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. So that's just the Aji that's over there. Okay, so we got shoulder hit here. So what are our two main options? K17, L16, right. Which one do you want to do in this case? J15, just like an after the fact elephant eye? Yeah, it would be pretty pitiful to do this, right? With that big wall we have on the left. That's not the way to use that wall. So Shusaku plays like this. Black, what are Black's choices here? Since this lecture had less commentary, I guess I'm asking more basic stuff for you guys. K15, what else? J14, that's really weird, Ruckus. I've never seen that before. Yeah, generally extend or jump. Those are the two options. Jump is lighter, but it leaves like a clamp, which is actually what Shusaku plays in this case. Also leaves a wedge. So this is more solid, but sometimes you don't want to get too heavy. So he goes for the light approach. And Shusaku plays the clamp. Black can H12. H12. That seems not really related to what's going on up there, though. Okay, so we do this. And now Black takes a chance to get an important point on the left-hand side. Where would that be? Pretty obvious. B9. B9? Come on, Jay. I'm going to hold you accountable for this move. B9 is needlessly low, right? Yeah, C8. B9 is like the S12 suggestion from earlier. Yeah, sometimes I don't know if I'm being trolled. So he thinks he has time to do this, and it works out. Shusaku plays Kosumi here to make sure, he's getting his A group out and he's prepared to press this area low later. So that's a really nice exchange for white, B for C. White doesn't have time, of course, but this would be a big difference. Okay, so Black actually just helps these stones, slowly but surely. Good lesson here. It's so ugly. Preparing to jump. Well, he's trying to use all his stones together, right? Actually ends up very nice. Now, white gets all the way in his face because he's got this big giant wall. I mean, we can play close up. There's no way we're getting cut. Cut. Yeah, we can't get cut because the wall's too strong. But black does, asks white what he's going to do. White, of course, has to back off here. He doesn't want to have too many cutting points. And this is actually threatening, so white has to respond here, right? Otherwise, this sort of thing is actually working at this point. Can give up 2 stones to break that area. So white's defense is warranted. And black gets to defend. So to me, this is pretty reasonable, right? White got something out of his area. That's fair, right? It's a go game. We can't deny them everything. But it's not too much. And black's group looks pretty decent to me. So take everything, yeah. complete failure. So also, this point at A here would be nice for an attack, you know, kind of like a casual attack, but growing a nice area. So Shusaku decides that would be too good for black, so he plays there himself. And so the A stone needs help, but black does some stuff in Sente first. Why not K15 for white? Like now or earlier, Madara? Okay, so I'm glad you asked. So at this point, B and C are Mii, right? So for example, I need to click the move first. If black does this, we can play here. Completely fine. If black connects, we can just connect, and we've only lost a very few points. So since B and C are Mii, we're guaranteed to get either, right? And when you're guaranteed Mii, the best thing to do is to pick neither, right? Don't do either, because that's inefficient, right? You're going to get one or the other. Other players. Okay. What's white's move here in the lower right? There's more than one possibility, but the basic one. Nice, Alex. Yeah. P5, or no, Q5 is indeed a choice. But Shusaku chooses, you know, chooses not to touch either side. Often this is the best choice, you know, just come out, but don't help either side. I always like pointing out that that's where black would play too, you know, to complete this. That I think helps to see the shape. So we just come out, and black helps the stone over here. And now notice we haven't helped this A stone, so that's good. So we come back here. This is actually a really important move, because if you don't play there, now this is too hard to handle, right? So this is a very practical move. It's a critical move to make sure that our corner is good. So black gets to make those exchanges, and then finally he comes back and helps his C8 stone on the left. White pushes. Typically here we would respond with A, walking ahead. But black actually doesn't really need to do that. So he plays somewhat of a strange move, but it's actually more severe than if he were to play here, right? There may be some aji around, like this A wedge. Oh, we've had that Fuseki many times recently, Dongo. You should go watch the YouTube videos. Give me some more hits. So black plays here, and this actually kind of makes a difference. Now Shusaku played here, and remember last game there was actually some comments from Shua, and I thought that was so cool that, you know, Shua made some comments in the Kifu and we were getting to read them. In this case, Shusaku actually made a comment about this move, and his comment was, "This is very bad," and he says that he should have played here. If you take a look at, you know, the A group and the B group, this is kind of like the vital point for both sides. Now, locally, this is just the natural shape. Locally, this is correct. So maybe he didn't think about it that much, I guess. That's what the commentator suggested. You know, maybe he didn't think very deeply about this move because the shape is just so natural. But this is actually the vital point, and Shusaku said so as well. So this is where the game kind of turns. Black actually makes really good use of this. You know, he takes advantage of this and plays this vital point here. So now you can see that Black's group is going to be getting stronger and can potentially grow, right? Whereas this group, White's group, is a lot weaker now, which is a problem. And there's no severe follow-up that White can do with the A stone. White actually has to play here. Okay, if we try to do this, which would be what we want to do, let's just ask Ruckus what he would do here, because I think I think he can punish this. How do we punish this, Ruckus? Ruckus always plays the most severe sequence, so I'm sure he'll find it. Oh, Merrick too. E5. And yeah, it looks a little unreasonable, but Black can do this, right? There's no way to capture the A stone. There's no way to capture the B stone. So White is really in trouble here. Yeah, good job, Merrick. So that's why we can't do that. We actually have to do this. Now the wedge, um, that would probably be a little early. Because it hurts this stone immediately. Oh man, Jay, you made me break the tree. I did. I thought I was on. I thought I was back in the other thing. Yeah, I broke the tree. Too bad. Okay, so this is the real game. Now you can only cut when you're offline. Restart the lecture. Okay, so this is what really happens. This is the real game. White or Black gets to follow up. You can see Black is controlling the center. He got his corner anyway, and White's group is still kind of a big stick. So the game has really changed with Black G9. White has to keep coming out. Black plays here. Now this might look a little strange. Can anyone tell me why we do this instead of K5? But what's the difference between this and K5? Right, it's just pushing from behind, right? So this is the same idea without pushing from behind. White comes out. Black comes out. White comes out. And Black's got some shape stuff going on here. And also he wants to be ready to do something, you know, keep the attack up on A potentially, and also jump into B potentially. So he actually fixes his shape up here. I thought this was kind of cute, like jump, 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 jump. E8 soon. What's E8? Yeah, there's Aji around this area. Like White's slightly worried about A, Black's probably slightly worried about B. Yeah, E8 doesn't work yet, but something to worry about. So White tries to do something to fix this area up. Oh wait, am I doing that thing again where... Interesting. No, I missed a move somehow. Once the tree gets broken, it's just over for some reason. What happened here? Give me a second to get back on track. Oh, duh. Black took this peep, right? Well, he had the chance. So other than that, everything's the same. Just that one peep exchange. Yeah, for some reason, once the tree breaks, I really stop caring to get focused again. Okay, so same thing. Back to here. Oh, you're going to ask about that peep. Good instincts. So white makes that exchange because now A looks like a problem, right? A is just going to work. But black fights back. He plays a peep of his own. And this doesn't go so well for white. Shusaku goes for a trade here because the feeling is that if he connects, it just makes bad shape. And then black can attack from here. So he counterattacks, and we get into a little trade here. But pretty good for black. Hey, don't say that. You have to go to Batosai's lectures too. That's actually the reason I do these extra ones on Tuesday instead of Wednesdays because I don't want to clash with his. Okay, so there's a trade here, right? We captured this area as white, but black clearly got more. White gets Sente though, but still it feels pretty good for black. So white is losing the game now. He's going to try to win by leaning on this group and trying to take a big right side. So the only I played him once or twice. I actually took one or two lessons from him, just in the context of a lesson. I actually don't even remember how the games went, but I definitely lost. Um, so all black has to do now to win is to settle on the right hand side, right? It's a big area. I didn't know he hated Ko back then. I don't think I started a Ko. So black is just going to try to live over here on the right. If he can do that, he's probably won this game. White jumps in, trying to keep this complicated. Black makes this exchange. We've seen this a lot. This is just a common exchange to make for Aji, right? That may help later. Close. He goes for the outside one. He's just trying to use these stones, right? This is a Sabaki situation. I'm just trying to get use out of these stones. White answers. And this move is really quite nice, and we'll see why later. It might not be clear why this is the correct shape at the moment, but it ends up being perfect, which to me shows that even though black wasn't a really well-known player, he certainly had considerable talent. Yeah, we'll see why this ends up really perfect later. You may have noticed that there's some thinness between these two stones, and black could attach at A. So white continues to attack, and he gets rid of that attachment. Black takes the side move. White plays a quick poke. And now he's going to see if he can attack this guy a bit. So now this is a good move, right? Earlier it was bad when we didn't have A yet, or at least it was a very questionable decision. Once we're out, it becomes better. This move is big in itself, and now black has to settle. he just makes some exchanges there, which white kind of likes those, right? Now here's where it is interesting. Black plays here. White has to help his two stones. So he plays here. And where now for black? S7, R8. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Jay. So S7 is better. We're going to see why. You should be happy. You're about to learn something. So the thing is, we can't actually save these stones, which might be why you didn't want to do that. So why did we do that? It's because when we sacrifice 2 stones instead of 1, we get additional forcing moves. And now the squeeze is way better, right? This is actually a nice technique to give up an extra stone here. There's even a proverb about it. If you do, this sort of thing, white just takes it and you need to fix, right? Like in Gote, you need to fix. So this is a really nice sacrifice. Yeah, so now we see what I was talking about. This is exactly where black would play to fix the A cut. And he did that a while ago. So to me, that shows really nice insight. Now he just goes for doing the center thing, helping his weak group and possibly doing the center. Let's see. White continues trying to pressure this group. All right, this is like an angle point. It's also a peep. Good question. How are we going to handle this? Probably, right? Like, before even reading whether or not we can capture, yeah, we can just do this, and that would break the right side. So we would, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, black would be willing to throw, more stones away. Yoyama says there's better. So what's the better? Just, let's see, other side? Like, make a net? So we'll do this if we can, right? And it seems like black can do this at the moment. But in, worst comes to worst, we can throw those 2 stones away as well. Okay, so black is just going to take the points. So notice what white is doing here. He wants to get into the center. He wants to get into the center. That's actually the meaning of this square stone. He's just pressing a bit. And now he has, something to work with to get into the center. So he comes in here. This is going to be maybe a little tough, right? First thing black does is play this Nobi, which might look slow, but it's a peep, right? Threatening to cut. So black does that, or white defends. And black presses. Is cut bad? Well, white is probably thinking that he can't afford to give black this area, right? He's already behind. So to stay in the game, he actually can't let black have that area. But now this gets dangerous, right? I liked the way black handled this situation too. I would be inclined to just try to attack this directly. But what he does is he connects here and says, okay, now I'm definitely going to break your top or I'm going to kill you. A or B, which do you want? Shusaku has to defend here. So black gets to break that. And so now white is staking the game on this attack here. This is his last chance. This whole group still has problems, right? So this is the last chance for white. Let's try to connect. White keeps attacking. J keeps sighing. Come on, Sai, you can win. Okay, so here you might just be tempted to play A, but you have to be kind of careful because maybe white can cut through the square area. So what black does is he just goes for some shape over here. Yeah, that's really painful, right? Ponicello is pointing out that not right now, but later, like black can just play simple moves to just really, really put the hurt on white. Whether or not it kills, it's gonna hurt. Yeah, I have no idea if it can kill. Maybe. For now, they're really concentrated on the center situation. Merrick has faith in Shusaku. Okay, let's see. You can see he's really, really going for the eyes here. Black makes an interesting exchange here. A for B. It looks like a bad exchange, and I would just think it was bad. But the commentator showed some stuff later that changes, so we'll look at that later. He said, it looks like a bad exchange, but looks can be deceiving. And the reason it looks bad is because now it seems like because of the A stone, or because of the B stone, we can possibly do A later. Okay, let's take the I away. Take the I away. So there's no I there. So black starts to come through. Still attacking. Cuts. He's playing like you. Yeah, Joa played like you last time too. You might be wondering about this, but white has this, right? A, B. So we could get these guys again. So that's why black can't do that. So he cuts. White Ataris. This is getting really complicated, I'm aware. Actually, I cannot figure out why white needed to play this next move. What about O5? Yeah, there's some Aggia O5 that comes up in one of the diagrams that the pro showed, but it doesn't work directly right now, right? Because black can't capture either side. But that Agi works with this Agi. We'll see a bit later. So can anyone tell me why white plays here? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with that wedge. For cut. Like to prepare this. You might be right. Maybe that's why. I'm literally asking the question without an answer. Maybe someone can show me. The reason I ask is because, well, let's just go back. Let's just come back to this. Let's say, okay, for now, there's a bunch of Aji over here, right? There's like Aji, Aji, Aji. So white's fixing. Let's just go with that for now. Okay, great. So black pushes, trying to get some space. White answers, black plays k9. Okay, so let's take a look now. All the stones are connected, and it would appear A and B are Mii, right? No? Why not? You're saying no just because of the tone of my voice? The tone of my voice was probably misleading. It is Mii. Shusaku resigns here because it seems like Black's group is alive. And as Ponticello mentioned, look at the C situation. So let's see what White could actually do here. There's this, right? H9. Oh, H9 is small potatoes, Merrick. You're getting really excited about capturing this A stone, but actually if Black plays here, you get these anyway. So this is like no gain. Well, small gain, I should say. That's not a big deal. The real question is about this. And this has to do with the AB exchange we saw earlier, that weird exchange. So let's see the reason for that exchange. Atari. Now we see Ponticello's move, and White doesn't have time to cut, right? Because Black can play B to ladder next. So that means White has to like do something stupid like that, and Black can just connect. And as for the rest of these stones, they still have the AB Mii. Why not Q4 first instead of P5? Q4. You're just hurting your P2 stone. Oh, ignore me. Okay. You fixed yourself. Okay, good question. Yeah, so that would be connected. Now, if we look at the same situation without that exchange, let's pretend that exchange was never made. Then how did this go? Oh wait, I'm sorry. I should go back and show something else. Sorry, I'm like spacing. So White can't connect here, right? But he could play Ko. So this would be actually a Ko for A. But notice, I mean, Shusaku, of course, knew that. And he resigned anyway, right? Because how many Ko threats are you going to get in the B area? And, Black can also play Ko threats that threaten to save his group. There's just too many. He knows the game is over. So now let's go back to without that exchange. Now, without that exchange, it turns out, let's see here. Still Ko, yeah. Except this Ko is, the other Ko is actually easier for Black than this one. Why not T9 first? Same thing. Yeah, same thing. Okay, so that was the game. Shusaku lost. This is like the only game this guy ever won against Shusaku. This was like, probably his lifetime masterpiece. He ended up being like a 5-dan player. Okay, so my question is, okay, let's take a look at this. I doubt we'll be able to figure this out. Maybe we can. Yeah, sure, Merrick. So at this point, the AB Mii thing, what if White plays here, right? threaten to cut, it would seem that white could fix both of these. And now my question is, how does black live? Remember, white in the game played C instead of doing this. He played here. I'm wondering what would happen if we fix those, right? So black is all separated. And the question is, can you use the Aji in this area to live? I couldn't figure it out. I did a bunch of variations and a bunch of stuff happened, but nothing that I was super sure about. G8 is big. G8. G8. Does G8 do something? What does G8 do? Hmm? Yeah, G8 only matters if you're alive. That's a good way to put it, Red. I think you're right about that. But, I mean, I don't understand what this is. Oh, like that? Oh yeah, what am I talking about? We can just... White has 4 liberty. Yeah, black has... Yeah, black seems down 1 liberty. Just 1. That's interesting, though. That's actually good to look at. I couldn't figure it out, I'll be honest. So that was my main question in this game was, did white really, really have to play here? You got something? Okay, let me give control to Ponicello. Atari. Ooh, didn't think of that. Okay. Oh, does that work? Oh, that might work. Yeah, very nice. Let me look at that again in slow motion. Yeah, slow motion. Let's matrix it. Pay watch for Go nerds. That's funny. Um, One thing I'm thinking about is that threatens like 1 eye, right? What if we let him have that? For example, oh no, we can still get another on the right hand side. And O5. Okay, cool. Thanks, Ponicello. That's good enough for me, I'm convinced. I was, just forever gonna be settled with, there's Aji there, but I don't know what it does. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Looked a little more in depth at some basic moves this time. Next game looks like it's going to be against Yasui Sanchi. You guys might remember him. He was a big fighter, one of the Tempo top 4 players. And I think Shuwa considered him the strongest fighter out of all of the Tempo top 4. And that'll be on Saturday. Sure. We can look at that question. I'm going to stop the stream first, though.